Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen. Enough with the remixes. That's enough. Basta, as the Italians would say. It's still my favorite Italian word, basta. Enough! Seems like just about every time there's a reissue announced now, it's got to be some ridiculous remix. Enough! Examples. Queen's first album, getting a reissue. In a 2024 remix. We don't need a remix of this. Sounds fine the way it is. Release it from the original master tapes. Maybe do a half-speed master or whatever. I don't care, but don't remix it. It's a classic album. It stands the test of time. This is an artifact. Needs to stay this way. Is this Roy Thomas Baker? Anyway, it doesn't need a remix. Then Lizzy's album's coming out. Thankfully, they reissued the first two. I showed those in earlier videos, and I'm now able to have Shades from a Blue Orphanage, and I'm able to have Vagabonds of the Western World. I've been looking for those albums for a long time. You never see those two anywhere. If you do, they're very high priced or they're not in great condition, so I was able to get reissues of those. They both sound great. Now they're going to reissue Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox. Thankfully, I already have these because they're going to be reissued in remixes. 2024 remixes. Why does this need to be remixed? This is their most popular album. Everybody, what? I know why they need to be remixed. It's a cash grab. I'll get into more of that later. That's why they're getting remixed, because everybody that wants this probably already has it. And now that there's a remix version, they're going to go have to double dip and buy the remix too. Where if it was just reissued in its original form, they probably wouldn't buy that because they already have it. So there's why it's being remixed. But artistically, we don't need a remix of Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak, or Johnny the Fox either. Both those albums sound great. Stop with these remixes. They have remixed Jim Croce albums recently. Why? These are like $5 albums. They sound great. I've mentioned before in videos how Jim Croce albums they sound so good. They're just made. It's got that, you know how everybody's talking about, they don't really talk about it a lot anymore, but they used to talk about how vinyl had that warm sound. It's a warmth in the vinyl you don't get from CDs. Warm vinyl. These actually have a warm vinyl sound, the Jim Croce albums. Look at that. It still has that clicking noise when you open the gatefold. We don't need a remix of this. And I've actually heard the remix of Jim Croce. It's just like putting a little bit of echo on it and stuff that it doesn't need. And it kind of pulls him further back into the mix and whatever. The originals sound much, much better. Did not need a remix, especially a remix like that. Enough. Enough with the remixes. I wanted to get Velvet Underground's Loaded because I don't have that. Never found that anywhere at a great price. It's going to be a remix. Same thing with Judas Priest, Rockarola. I have just about all the Judas Priest, especially the early stuff. I'm not really into the later stuff, but I have, like Sad Wings of Destiny. That's the one that kind of goes with Rockarola. Never got Rockarola, though. Never found a good copy of that. Probably the UK one would be the one to get. The sound quality was diminished when it was released in the US for those first few pressings, so I wanted to get a UK. UK is getting more and more expensive to get with shipping and stuff like that. Plus, you got to get it in good condition so you can actually listen to it without it sounding like ass. Judas Priest, Rockarola. Oh, it's getting reissued. Finally, oh, it's a remix. Enough with the remixes. Have we learned nothing? Because this is not anything new. This is all done before. Who remembers this? The ZZ Top 6-pack. This is a prime example of why we don't need remixes. In the 1980s, I think it was 1987, they took the first 6 ZZ Top albums, which had not been available in a long time, had never been available before on CD, and remixed them all for that new 80s sound. We pumped them up, souped them up, revved them up. What they did was, among other things, is put a bunch of reverb on it. Got to get the reverb on there. That's a remix. And they pulled off Frank Beard's drums. I call these the fuck Frank Beard versions because his drums are gone and replaced by 80s drum machines. So every album, there's 6 full albums on here. Every song on here, even though they're from 1971 and 1972 and 1975, all the early 70s, every song on here sounds like Sleeping Bag. Who the hell asked for that? And you can get this now for like $5. No one wants this because they know exactly what it is. And when they finally issued the CDs in the original form with the original album mixes, they made a big deal about it. It's like, finally, the original album versions of these classic ZZ Top albums now on CD. Why didn't you just put if they're so awesome, which they are, why didn't you just put them out like that in the first place? Why do this shit? We learned nothing. Mothers of invention, only in it for the money. Remember the 80s when that was remixed for CD? And they did the same thing. They took off the organic drums, put on drum machines, remixed that for the new sound. Hey, it's for the kids. It's for the new generation. That's the excuse they always use when they do these remixes, like the Beatles remixes that they did the last few years. Oh, well, the kids got to hear the remixes. They don't like those original versions. This one's for the children. They always use that excuse, and I've talked about this before when I did my Revolver remix video, which, cash grab, cash grab, cash grab, I don't care what anybody says. Beatles remixes are completely unnecessary. They suck. Stick with the originals, stereo or mono. There's your decision. You don't need a stupid fucking remix. However, they're throwing on this excuse is always it's for the new generation or whatever. I used to be the new generation. Remember when they were colorizing black and white movies? That's when I was the new generation. And they threw me under the bus and my whole generation saying, oh, well, the kids, the teenagers, the young people, they don't want to watch black and white movies, so we have to colorize all these for the new generation. I never said that. I loved black and white movies. Oh, well, they didn't have the technology to have color movies back then. If they did, these would all be in color. So it's great that we can colorize all these black and white movies. Horse shit. They had color movies in 1939. What the hell? Stop throwing young people under the bus. It's not for young people that all these remixes are being done. It's so people can double dip if they already have the albums. It's a goddamn cash grab, and it's been going on for years. It needs to stop. We have learned nothing. What about Kiss? Creatures of the Night. Remember the original version from 1982, and then they came out with the other cover where they don't have makeup on, and they don't even have Ace Frehley on it. Maybe they do. But yeah, different, no makeup, and a remix for 85. Now nobody wants that. Everybody wants the original because the original sounds better. The original always does. What was the other one like? Remember Def Leppard's Bringing on the Heartache when they did the 84 remix with all the keyboards and everything? Nobody plays that anymore. Everybody just wants the original. Remember the Doors CDs? Oh my God, what a debacle. The Doors CDs, I think it was 2008, 2007, 2009, somewhere around there. They remixed all the Doors albums and put them out on CD. They were horrible. They had Jim Morrison laughing in the middle of the song. They had all this studio chatter put on there, all this weird shit. Oh, this is the way we would have originally done it if we would have had... So you're telling me that Jim Morrison didn't laugh before and you couldn't do it? What the hell? What? And they put out all of these albums and remixed them. Yeah, you can't get those on vinyl because no one wants them. They were never put on vinyl when the vinyl resurgence came along because nobody wanted that shit. Nobody wants these stupid friggin' remixes after time because they realize, yeah, these are terrible. We don't want these. Same thing for Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz. Remember when they took the drum and the bass off of here and replaced it with a new drummer and a new bassist and did a remix of that without even saying it anywhere on the cover or anywhere in the artwork? That never made it to vinyl either because nobody wanted that. Everybody wants the original version. It's a classic album. You want to hear it the classic way. You want the classic mix. Those are your memories. Talk to a Star Wars fan. They'll tell you the same thing. These are my memories. I don't want them tinkered with. I don't want them remixed. Give me the original version. If you're going to re-release it, re-release the original version. Enough with the remixes. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because it's getting more and more rampant. Like I said, Judas Priest, Rock-a-Rolla, Jim Croce, Queen's first album. I could go on and on. All of these albums coming out now, and they're remixes. You can't get just a reissue of something in its original form because maybe the original, copy from the 70s or whatever is hard to find. That's what I like about reissues. They're supposed to be a real representation of the original product, as close to the original as you can get. I thought that was the point. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about remixes that are done like immediately. Like I'm not talking about like the Neil Young, the remix of this that came out just a few months after the original. I mean, that was more of like a correction. You know, I mean, the album had only been out for like a couple of months. Same thing with the Grateful Dead. This has only been out for a couple of months, and they remixed it because they made mistakes or whatever. Same way with Billy Joel's Cold Spring Harbor. That was mastered way too fast. It was literally a mistake when they reissued that later on and I guess remixed it. Even though they did change the length of some of the songs and added like keyboard, they didn't need to do that. They just needed to slow it down to the real speed that it was supposed to be and fix it. You don't need to remix it, just fix it. Unbelievable. The whole thing that started this was this right here. I just got this. It's a Rocktober release from Rhino Records. This is the David Coverdale solo album from 1977 called Whitesnake. That's where the band, he got the idea for the band name. He had a solo album called Whitesnake. Now, this is not an incredible album. This is not a 5-star album. This is not something I've been hankering for decades. This is just an album I was always kind of curious about. I'd heard it before in its original form. Thought it was kind of cool because I've always liked albums where an artist, that's why I like a lot of debut albums, where artists are kind of trying to find their way, like the first Nazareth album or the first Accept album. I could go on and on, where artists are trying different things, throwing different things against the wall, and they don't really sound like their later albums. First Thin Lizzy album, same thing. This is kind of like that. He's between Deep Purple and Whitesnake on this album, doing a solo thing. And this has got like blues rock on it. It's got like gospel tinge stuff on here. It's got like a little bit of disco thrown in because it's 1977. And it's definitely got a 70s sound. Now I'm talking about the original album. This, I didn't even know this at the time when I got this, is a 2024 remix. Rhino. I thought I could trust you. I thought I could trust Rhino Records to do proper remixes, but apparently now they're in the remix game. And it says that they're in little tiny letters, 2024, remixed, reimagined, remastered. Now, remastered's fine. If you don't know the difference between remastered and remixed, please don't comment. Rocktober release, and this is not good. I am going to get rid of this. I've heard it twice. Don't want it. Getting rid of it. Selling it. Getting something else. Nice, color vinyl there, but don't like it. They've changed the running order of the songs. They've changed the cover. It no longer says David Coverdale Whitesnake. Now apparently this is a Whitesnake album called 1977, which is not a Whitesnake album. The original is so neat, I guess. I won't call it cool. It's kind of neat. Because it definitely has a 70s sound, and it's definitely him trying different things. Like I said, the disco clip cymbals, and it's got like one song on here called Celebration even has like a Latino kind of beat going on. Like I said, a little gospel stuff in here. It's got some the typical stuff that you would expect from him, like the blues rock stuff. There's a song on here called Whitesnake. I got a white snake, honey. I'm gonna let it crawl all over you. Funny stuff like that. But the thing is this definitely sounds, the original, sounds like a 70s album. The drums are very organic. They're just right up front. I love that. One of my favorite things about recordings is hearing drums. I love organic drums. I love drums that sound like a drum kit without all the processing and all the flange and all the whatever, the reverb and all that kind of stuff. I'm not into all that. I like drums that sound like drums, and 70s albums have a lot of those, including the original of this. It has a lot of like wide open stereo. It has a lot of, some of his vocals have a very 70s effect on it. It definitely sounds like a 70s album. It sounds like it's from the times. This does not. The first thing they want to do when they remix these albums, they want to fuck with the drums. They want to put echo on the drum. Let's make the drummer sound like he's in a different room. Let's mix it all together. And that's exactly what this is. Sounds very compressed, almost sounds mono in a lot of parts. There's a song on here called Hole in the Sky. I mean, it is so compressed, it sounds like a bad MP3. The original does not sound like this. But this album, in its original form, never released in the US, as far as I know, on vinyl, until maybe there was one release like in the early 2000s or something. But this came out in 1977, no US pressing at all. So this is very hard to find in its original state. And I don't want to pay like $85 for a freaking David Coverdale album. But $25 for this? I thought, it's new. It's right here in the store. I'll pick this up. Didn't realize it was a remix. It's a stupid remix. So not interested in this. And I get it. Whitesnake is no stranger. like Love Ain't No Stranger, to remixes. They had the, you know, their whole like Slide It In was a remix of the US and the UK or different versions, but those came out around the same time. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about albums that have been out since literally 1977 getting a remix for modern time, a new, more conventional remix, a new tasteful remix of this. Who the hell is asking for tasteful David Coverdale, the guy that came out with songs like Slide It In? Nobody wants tasteful mixes, at least I don't, of David Coverdale. Trash is what this piece of shit is what this remix is. Now, there are remixes that I can get behind, that I can stand behind. Like I said, I'm not talking about remixes like single 7-inch remixes of like the Reflex or She-Bop or something like that came out at the same time. I get why they do that. Those are fine. But if you're going to remix an album that's been out for years and years and years and put a new spin on it, so to speak, then do this. Call it something else. Give it different artwork. Make it known that it's a different thing. And here's the important thing. Don't make the original go out of print. Keep the original in print and just release this as an alternate version with a different name, with a whole different concept. Don't do the Beatles thing where it's the same artwork, the same thing, and it's tiny letters, oh, remix. Do this if you're going to be the Beatles. Right here. Let It Be Naked. Great idea for a remix. They put this the way the Beatles wanted it. They took off the orchestrations. They put the songs all in different order. Completely different cover. And again, here's the important thing. Let It Be never went out of print. You could still get Let It Be. You could just get this as an option. The David Coverdale is not like that. There is no reissue of the original David Coverdale Whitesnake album. It's completely out of print, been out of print for decades. You can't get it. You could still get Let It Be when Let It Be Naked came out. This was just like, you know, like a different version. You could opt for this if you want. That's not the way Judas Priest Rock-A-Rolla is. The original's out of print. You can't get it. You have to get the remix. Sucks. And when they put out these Beatles remixes, they put them out with like the original mono version and the outtakes and demos. You can't just get those. You have to get the remix with it. 10 different configurations of the Beatles Revolver reissue, but each one of them has the remix. You have to have the remix. You just can't buy the demos. You just can't buy the outtakes. You just can't buy the mono version. You have to buy the remix. That kind of pulls back the curtain a little bit on how these are absolutely a cash grab. I picked this up the same day that I picked up the David Coverdale. This just got reissued. This is Dennis Coffey and Finger Lickin' Good. Love that cover. You know, the cover is one of the reasons I had to have this. I mean, a woman simulating masturbation in a theater with some fried chicken grease there. You had to have that. I've never masturbated with fried chicken grease, but it's probably on my bucket list. Get it? Bucket list. Anyway, this is a decent album. You know, Dennis Coffey is popular for his Scorpio song and instrumental. He does a lot of these. They're not really instrumentals, but they might as well be. Most of the songs are just somebody screaming the title over and over again, like the woman from Sly and the Family Stone. She kind of sounds like that on here. And, you know, one of the songs is called If You Can't Dance to This, You Got No Business Having Feet. And she just says that over. If you can't dance to this, you got no business having feet. If you can't dance to this, you got no business having feet. If you can't dance to that, just over and over again. And that's the way a lot of these are. There's some decent guitar on here, but mostly it's like a little bit of funk disco going on. It's a nice listen. But I'm glad I finally got this. Again, for the album cover, very strange back cover here with the hand coming out of the fried chicken. I don't think that's the way that the bucket trick is. I don't think it's supposed to be a hand that you poke through there, like movie theater with the popcorn. But anyway, yeah, the whole point of this is it was called Finger Lickin' Good. The reissue is called Finger Pickin' Good. I guess Finger Lickin' Good must be trademarked by Colonel Sanders and they couldn't call it that. But there is a song on here called Finger Lickin' Good and that kept the L. But the album is now retitled Finger Pickin' Good from Dennis Coffey. Anyway, enough with the remixes. Kiss, Smashes, Thrashes, Hits. That's just one that just came into my mind. Awful remixes of classic Kiss songs, especially Rock and Roll All Night with his drums, these 80s drums in a song from 1975. And they pushed all the verses to the front of the song and then just have the chorus repeating and repeating and repeating for like the second 2/3 of the song. It's stupid. Why do that? Stop. We have learned nothing. No one wants ZZ Top Six Pack anymore. The Doors remixes from the 2009 or whatever. Nobody's caring about that anymore. They never got released on vinyl. The Ozzy Blizzard of Oz with the different bass and drum. Nobody cares. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants it because people want it, they put it out. They're not putting it out. The Kiss Creatures of the Night remix. That's not being put out because no one wants. Mothers of Invention, only in it for the money, the 80s remix. Terrible. Stop with the remixes. That's enough. You know, they're not going to stop though. They're not, because this is a cash grab. So, you know, some dude on YouTube named Robert, it's not like people are sitting in the record company going, you know, there's this guy on YouTube named Robert Frithyn, Jones, I don't know what his last name is, but he says we should stop doing these remixes, so we better stop. I get it, that's not going to happen. Record companies don't care what I have to say. But thank you for letting me vent. I get my frustrations out. I appreciate you listening. Maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you'll put in the comments, yeah, but the Steven Wilson remixes, though. Wait a minute. Maybe you'll put that. I haven't heard those. I don't know what those sound like. I have the original Yes albums. They're fine. I don't know. Thank you for letting me just let it all out in a rant. I know it's not going to change anything. I'm Robert Fifth, and thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. But enough with the remixes.